Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's video is about select one choice list of values in Oracle ADF. So here we are going to see the following contents. First we'll see how to create a model view based list of values. Then we'll see how to create a list of value programmatically. We'll use a static hard-coded list of values. Then we'll try to fetch the LOV values using a view object. We'll see how to get the selected value of the LOV in the bean class. Then we are going to discuss a scenario which will be to display the values of a table based on a LOV selection. Then some issues issues and errors we are going to discuss. So let's get started. So the first thing is create a model of view based list of values. For this, you can see I need to create a read-only view object. Here I have created a location LOV which has a query select distinct location from the department. Then I'll create my main view, department view, where I will attach the list of values for this location attribute. So this is my main list of values department view, which has this attribute location. So if you click on this location, you'll be able to see here the list of values column. So I'll just click on the plus icon here, and now once you click on this, we will be asked to provide the list data source and the list attribute. So in order to select the list data source, just click on the plus icon and you will be able to select your view accessor from the list of views. So here I have selected the read only location view, which I created to be displayed from where I am going to fetch my LOV values. So after selecting this, I need to select the list attribute. So here you can see there are two tabs. One is a configuration tab, one is a UI hints tab. The attribute which you want to go, which you want your LOV to be used at the back end, you're going to provide that attribute value here. And the attribute value which you want the user to see, that will provide in the UI hints. For example, here I'm going to use the same. You're going to use the location. I'm going to use the location attribute in both configuration and UI tabs. But there can be a requirement where I have to pass the location ID here in the configuration tab for any purpose, any execution. But to the user, I'm going to show the location name. So in that case, what we will have to do is we have to, in the first case, in my read-only view, I'll have to provide those two values, the location ID and the location name. So once my viewer has those two values, while selecting, you will have the choice to select the location ID here in a configuration tab. And once you go to the UI hints tab, you can select the location name. So when this list of values is available on the UI page, user will be able to see the location name. But when you select that, if you want to get the backend value of the location attribute, what is selected, right, you will be able to get the location ID. So here you can see that after I have provided a view accessor and attribute, I am able to view the list of values, this location LOV, which I have created for this particular attribute. Next thing is to drag and drop this location field into my page. This is a create LOV JSF page as a select one choice. So once you drag and drop it, you will be asked to provide a list binding. You can see the data control, the LOV, where this column is mapped to, and this is the attribute, and this is the list binding which we created just about the location LOV in this tab. This is the code, the source code which is going to appear. There you can see the binding code which is appeared for this location LOV, and here I can the location LOV, I'm able to see it on the page. So this is how you will create a list of values based on a model or view object. Next, we are going to see how we can programmatically create a select one choice list of values. There can be scenarios where we need to use that, which we'll discuss in the later. So let's just see how we can create. So first thing, I'm going to show you how we can create a static hard-coded list of values. So in order to create a static hard-coded list of values, first I have created one JSF faceless page, you can see. Then I have created a managed bean, which is in the request scope. This is my LOV test bean. Now here I'm going to create a variable called as department name list. Okay, and this is of type list select item. I am going to generate the getters and setters of it, and I'm going to write the code here on this. So here in the getter and setter, you have to just first check whether the department name list is null. If it is null, then only you're going to populate the values department list dot add new select item. Here the first column value and the second column value. So first column is the one which will be going at the back end, as I showed you in the model part as well, right? The configuration tab. This is the one which will be used for further processing if you need the value in the back end, and this is the value which is going to appear the accounting, right, to the user. Whenever user selects the LOV, though he's selecting accounting, you will be able to get the department ID here 10 in your backend bin if you're trying to get the value of the LOV. So once I have defined this code in my in my bean class, next thing is I'm going to select for a choice element here. The ADF is a text selection, and I'm going to drop it on the page. Once I drop it on the JSF page, I'll be asked to do a binding. So in order to select the binding, just click on this bind button, and you can select the LOV which we created here, the name department name list from the bean class. Once you have selected this, you will be able to see the values of the department name here. Now, this is the static way. Here we had populated the values of the select one choice hard coded values we had provided. Next, we'll see how we can provide the values using a view object. So here also I'm going to create a read-only SQL based view object. So this is my job LOV. So this is like distinct job from employees. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an iterator for this view. Okay, so in this, so what I'll do, I'll create a page definition file for the page where I want to display this LOV, and I'm going to create an iterator. I'll click on the executable section, and then I'll choose the option iterator, and I'll select the job LOV iterator to create this iterator binding for my job for my LOV page. Okay, for this create LOV page. So this iterator binding is created. You can see here. Now I'll access this iterator. I'll access this view object using this iterator and fetch the values from this view object and populate in my programmatically created select one choice. So now I have been here, and here similarly I have defined a job name list. In the getter of this I have this code where if it is not null, I'm going to create an object of it, and here I'm going to access this view object using the iterator, and one by one I'll just iterate through all the rows of this view object, and I will populate the values here in this job name list at new select item. I'm going to provide the first and the second values. I'm going to keep the UI and the backend value same, so I'm providing the same row attribute here. So this is a code to just get the view object from the iterator binding. Now on the list page, on the JSFF page, what you have to do is you have to drop select one choice list, and once you select that, you will have to do the binding. So here you can select your managed bean, where and in the managed bin you can select your list. So here if it is a request scope, you'll be able to see it here. If it is in a backing bin scope or any other page full scope, you just click on that scope and you'll be able to see the managed beans inside it, and inside the managed bean the list which you have created, you will be able to see it here. If in case you have not created the getters and setters, or there is some issue with the getters and setters, then you won't be able to see the list here. So just make sure that the list value, the variable which you have created, right, it should have the getters and setters properly defined. Now you will be able to see the job value available here. Now next thing we are going to discuss how to get the selected value of the LOV in the bean. So in order to do that, what you have to do is, when you select one choice component, you have to create a binding. So in order to create a binding, just select on this the binding attribute from your property inspector. Now you will be asked to select a bean, and then you can define a property here. So I have defined property department bind here. Now you can see the binding is created here for the select one choice. Make sure the binding should be created for this parent select one choice. You shouldn't create binding for a select item here. Okay. So I have created a binding for all these three list of values which I'm having for a department, for a job, and the this a location binding, the location LOV. So in order to fetch the values, what I have to do is I have to access that binding dot get value. So this will give me the value whatever I have selected. So for example, I've selected on page the department name as research, the job as salesman, and location as Dallas. I click on this fetch location LOV value, and I'll be able to get the printed values. So you see here for job value, I'm getting salesman. For location, I'm getting Dallas. But for department value, though I have selected research, I'm getting ID here. This is what I wanted to tell you before. Uh, so if you see in the previous steps, whenever we created the department name list, we had given the first attribute as the department ID and a second as the department name. So when you're trying to access the value in the backend for this LOV, right, able to get the backend value, the first column value, which I defined here, not the name. Okay. Now let's go to a scenario based question. So I have my this is one of the scenarios. This is like you'll have to display the details of a table based on a LOV selection. So example, I have a company list here. So once I select any of the company IDs from this particular list, the company details should be available here. So in order to do this, first of all, I'll tell you some issues what can happen. Like I have a view object here defined. So this is the view object where I'm getting the company details, and I have a bind variable defined on it. And here I have a view object which I'm going to use for an LOV. Okay. So let's go to this page now. Now the issue will happen when we are, if I want to use, in previous sessions I have shown you how we can create a list of values for a particular view, right? So here if we want to create for the company ID, if I want to create a list of values which I have created here, what is the issue which I'm facing? Okay. So steps are similar. We'll just quickly go through it. I have created a read-only view which I showed you. This is the company RVO. Then I have a view object, the company view. Then I have this list value defined here. Now, once I drop this company ID from this company view on the page from data control, right? I get the details here, but when I run the page, I don't get any details. The reason is the view object which I'm using here. This view object has a bind variable, and if I'm not providing a value of the bind variable, right? So this value until I provide the value of the bind variable, the LOV is not going to display. So this will come as blank. So in this scenario, you can use a programmatic way of creating a list of values, which will come to your rescue. So in this, what I have done is similarly, I've created an iterator here. So this is the JSF page which I'm going to use, and here if I go to bindings, you can click in order to create the executables, right? You can just click on this iterator, and I'm going to select the source from where I'm going to populate the value of my list of values. So don't use this one because this one is already based on bind variable. It will anyways until you provide a bind variable value, it won't populate. So you can use this one. This is the LOV, the independent LOV, which only has the select statement, right. So select this, and if you click on OK, this iterator will get created. And this is the LOV which is here, right? Select company ID from the company. Now the next thing what you can do is you can create a bean. I have a bean created here, and this here you will create Select item company list. I created this company list. I generated the getters and setters, and here I'm going to write this code. So here, if the company list is null, then I'm going to create an object of this, then call my company iterator and get the view object from it. Iterate through all the rows of the view object, and then I will populate the company list one by one. So here the first attribute is company ID, and the second also I want the company ID only to be shown to the user, as well as I want to access this at the backend. So here you will have to provide this codes, because because if you provide this one, right, this object, it will give you an error. So you have to convert it into a you have to use the codes here for the string. Then close your rows that I created, and you will be able to see the values. So what I've explained here, creation of the bean. And okay, now the next step is, once you have created populated these values here, right, you need I'll show you on the page. Okay, I have this list created, I have this application running, so you are able to see all the company IDs here. Now my requirement is, whenever I click on one of this, right, for example, if I click on 2005, the company details ID and a month and a revenue for that company ID should be displayed. For this, what we can do is we can use a value change listener. So you can see in the class I have defined a value change listener as well. So for this value change listener, I'm using this view where I already have. This is going to fetch me all the company details based on the company ID which I'm providing. Okay, so here this is the bind variable which I'm using, and this value I have to provide from the UI. In my case, whatever value user selects, right, I have to provide it here. So I told you before how to fetch the value of the selected value of a list of values, right? So here is for this you will have to create a binding. So if you see on my page, I'll go to the source of it. I have created a binding here. So you can see my binding. This is the binding attribute I have created. Now you can just do get value dot to string to get the value of this one. So I've just written a tertiary operation here, so because in case this value is null in some case, right? If it is not null, then I'm going to convert it into string, else I'm going to pass just empty quotes. So I have this value stored here. Now once I execute, means I get the access of this view object, I'm going to set the bind variable value using the set named where clause params. This is the bind variable name which I have defined here. Now I'm providing a value where I'm executing the query and I'm getting the output here. Okay. So one more thing to make this work, right, you will have to put auto submit true for this selectOne choice. If you haven't put this auto submit, right, though you have the value change listener here, and you will select the value of the LOV, right, the value change listener will not be called, so you need the auto submit to be true. So just go here, and I'm going to select any value for maybe 2002, and I'm able to get the values here. If I'm selecting 101, look at the values 702. Similarly, right? Now we'll go to one more thing, some issues which you can face. Okay, errors and issues. So one error which I have faced sometimes is the java.lang class cast exception. So Oracle, if internal controller state ADFC context cannot be cast into Oracle internal controller state ADFC context. This issue sometimes occur when I don't know real reason, but normally this can be resolved if because if you just shut down this your current application and run it again, so this issue gets resolved. Okay, so this is one solution which you can use if you get such type of error. Or maybe you can do a rebuild, or you can clean and then make all, or rebuild and then run it again, so this can be resolved. Another error that can be like the index 0 or index 1, any index, or the submitted value of a selectOne choice is out of bounds, right? You can see this error, this Oracle selectOne renderer index 0 submitted is out of bounds. So whenever you are having a list of values, right, so you might get this error. You can replicate this error like whenever you're submitting the LOV, or if you have auto submit true on that, right? So what will happen is when the LOV value is getting submitted, you will get this error on the page, and you won't error on your console, and nothing will display on the page. So in this case, you need to make sure that you're properly populating the value of the LOV. If you are doing it programmatically, it should be done properly. If there is any mistake there, right, then you won't be, you might get this error. For instance, like I have to define mm, the values which I want to provide to the company list, right? I need to define it in the select one choice setter which I sorry the getter which I have created, right? If maybe if you define this value in the binding of the company binding, right? Maybe in this getter, you will get this error because it's not able. This is not the correct way, right? So you will get this error, and so you need to make sure that the value which you are populating, right? It is the programmatic values which you're trying to provide to the LOV is correct. Okay, so this is a place where you have to look if you get this type of error. One other issue which I've seen is auto submit option is not working. Like even if for example, I have to select the auto submit true for this particular thing, right? Select on choice. So even if I select auto submit here as true, what I observed that this save as button doesn't get enabled, so maybe this value is not getting stored, and here also I was not able to see the auto submit added in the source code. So I tried to add it in the source code as well, but here also it was save, it was not showing up. So in order to overcome this, what I tried is I went to the expression builder, and here you can write true, and when you click on OK, it will say for the first time it said that do you have some values which you need to be saved. Okay, so this save button was enabled, and once I saved it, it started appearing on the source code here. Okay, so these are some issues which I have faced. So thanks for watching.